And we're now going to have a presentation from Scott Stephens. And his is a personal story about surviving melanoma. It's a practical approach he took to nutrition, meditation and positive empowerment. So welcome, Scott, to the presentation.
Bear with me as I crunch the last 12 years of my life into 15 minutes. My name's Scott. My connection with melanoma started 12 years ago with a phone call. My skin specialist called me up and that mole we took off. It was a level 3 melanoma. I was 23 and I had cancer. Had the standard course of care, had a wider excision, pathology and scan showed no spread, so what? I'd had a scare, but I was all right. And I was all right for a while. 6 months later, it had spread to the lymph nodes in my groin. I was transferred to Peter Mac, which was great. Had a full block dissection done on my groin. Scan showed no spread, pathology was good. But I was quickly told the chance of recurrence was quite high and was offered a drug trial called interferon, a form of immunotherapy. And I was keen to bring up my odds, so I said, okay. It was a 12-month trial. What can I say? It wasn't that bad. I was sick, but I wasn't that sick. And then just going back one step, right at the start of this, I met this amazing girl. We'd been out, 3 times before I was diagnosed. And as much as you try and scare someone off with a cancer diagnosis, it didn't work. She was still keen. And it was in this period of remission at the end of this trial, they whacked a remission rubber stamp on me and sent me out into the real world. And it was in this time that I asked this girl to marry me. We had a short engagement, we were married in this low-key ceremony on the beach. It was gold. It was just in returning from my honeymoon. Because I was still considered to be some risk, I was having, routine scans and checkups every 6 months in this time. And one coincided with getting back from my honeymoon. The scan showed that the glands in my chest were enlarged, and they thought, well, that's odd, but, it could be nothing, we'll retest in 3 months. In 3 months, it had doubled in size, and they obviously suspected what it was. Biopsy proved what it was, and it was melanoma, and it was back. I was pretty gutted, actually. My life seemed right. I was getting married. We were building a house. This wasn't part of my plan. Surgery was thought to be the best course of action. It was all in one place. Met the chest surgeon. He said, all right, we'll go in, we'll chop it out, and you'll be good to go. And I thought, okay. And the surgery was at St Vincent's this time. I'd had most of my other work done at Peter Mac. And St Vincent's, you get there, you can't wait with your partner or your loved ones. So you turn up, strip down your jocks, put your gown on. You sit in this massive waiting room with 30 people. And my surgery was running late, and there's only so many times you can read Cleo. So I was just psyching myself out. By the time that, my surgeon came and he calls me into the little waiting room, and he says, we just got to talk through the procedure. And he said, what's going to happen. You're going through my back, you're going to chop it out, and I'll be good to go. And he said, but it's serious. And I said, I know. I said, you're going to go in through my back, you're going to chop it out, and I'll be good to go. And he said, it's serious, And he said, look, we just got to talk through the procedure because you've got to sign the forms, blah, blah, blah. And so, he went on to tell me how they've got to deflate my lungs in this procedure and all this stuff. And I sort of leant back a bit and went, no, you didn't tell me that. And so, they wheeled me into surgery and I was pretty much crapping my pants. Surgery went well. It came out clean, scraped down my lungs. They were all happy. Scan showed that I was clear, so it was good. But in saying that, it was major surgery, and I was, they told me I was going to be out of action for a long time, so I had a lot of tally time lined up. And it was in this time I was having visitors and things, and someone came to visit me and mentioned the Gawler Foundation. And it was interesting, actually, because I'd already thought along these lines. I already thought, this cancer has come back a few times now. Maybe I should do something. Maybe I should change my life. So I looked into it and I thought, all right, I'm going to do this. And so I signed up for their 12-week program that they ran at the time. And the first session, it just blew my mind. Up until this point, I'd done no research. I went on the internet once, right at the start, and that was just to see what melanoma actually was. This first session, these notions of these things you can do for yourself, activating your own immune system, meditation and nutrition, and the importance of healthy emotions, all these things. It was amazing. I thought, why has no one told me about this before? So I was sold. I bought myself a juicer, started juicing. I lived in a flat and I'd sit on my little balcony and, learn to meditate. And it all seemed to work well together. I was recovering from the surgery. I was doing light walks around the block, I was doing meditation, and, day by day I was getting better. And 3 months later, I was just due to go back to work actually, and it was my post-op scans. I thought it was just a formality. We were due to move into a house in a couple of weeks, and my doctor, who's here today actually, Grant MacArthur, he's a good man, he walked in and, he just didn't hold back. He just said, look, it's bad news. He said the tumour's grown back in your chest, but now it's spread to your pelvis and to your bowel. My wife and I, we just started crying like babies, When you're unwell and you go to the doctors, even if you think you're well, you're still like 70-30. You're still like 70% of you says, there's nothing to worry about, I'm fine. There's still 30% in the background that's like this, just brace for impact just in case. I had no brace for impact. This was just a rubber stamp. My life had started, it just knocked us down. When we stopped crying, we said, well, what do we do? And my doctor said, well, look, you can have chemotherapy if you like. And then went on to tell us that it only had a 5 to 10% success rate, and that was it. And so what? So we cried some more and then went home. The next day, I was a mess. I was a dribbling mess. I had to talk to someone, and I rang the counsellor that was running the Gawler course at the time, actually, Siegfried. And I just rang him up and I said, Ziggy, I'm cactus, And he said something that was truly amazing. He said, you've always got more options than you think you have. What have they told you so far? And I went on to tell him how they offered me chemotherapy, but, in the same sentence told me that it didn't work. And he said, all right, if it was me, this is what I'd do. He said, the Gawler live-in program is about to start. We're up to December 2004 now. He said, do that. Gave me the number of a doctor. He said, go and see this doctor. He said, and do the chemotherapy. Just put all your eggs in one basket and go for it. And strangely enough, I felt better. I thought, all right, there is something I can do. I'm not helpless in this situation. And so I did. Started the chemotherapy the following Friday. And I've been sick before, but I was so sick. I just couldn't stop throwing up. I had the anti-nausea drug intravenous, back at hospital again. Go home, throw up. Just moved into my house. I was just wearing this line in the carpet from my bed to the toilet. I'm not a heavy-set guy, but I lost almost 10 kilos in a week. I just couldn't keep food down. It was horrible. And it was 7 days after this that I was due up at Yarra Junction for the live-in program for Gawler. And I'm a typical guy, I don't do sick very well. And I thought, maybe we should just stay home. But my wife, she already knew me too well, because I'm a tight ass. And she said, well, we've already paid, why don't we just go and have a look? So I thought, all right, we'll go. And it was in the first whip around. You're in a group, it's 35 people, you sit around in a big circle. You go around the circle and you say, hi, I'm Joe, this is what I've got, this is why I'm here. And my wife went first, actually. And she said, my name's Sarah and that's my husband, Scott. And I'm here to support him. And she fully started crying, which was awesome, actually, because, she really hadn't cried much. She was kind of like a rock for me. And it was then, it was then that I thought, I'm in the right place. As much as your family and your friends, they're there for you. They don't get it. But in this environment, for lack of a better word, it was just like cutting the bullshit, You didn't have to pretend to be someone that you weren't. You didn't have to pretend to be well to make other people not worry so much. You could just be yourself. You could talk about your fears and the things that you truly thought about. It was amazing. I learned some good things, deep in my meditation, learnt about how stress and emotions affect your immune system and all sorts of cool stuff. And then I went home. Got in to see the doctor that I was recommended to see, looked at my blood work, I started on some supplementation. And what? That was my plan. My next round of chemotherapy came up and I thought, that made me that sick, that'll finish me off by itself. I'll put that over here for emergency plan B if I get really unwell. And so what? That was my take. Through meditation and through being by myself, I had a good talk with myself. I sat there in this safe place. And I said, in all honesty, with full conviction, if it's my time to die, I'll die. You don't have to drag me kicking and screaming like some little kid in the supermarket. I'll go. But at the same time, I said, I don't want to go. I want to live. And I'm going to do everything in my power to stay alive. And so this was my game plan. I believed in these principles I'd learned. I was going to apply these to the best of my ability, but with no expectations. I was just going to look after myself as good as I can, and whatever happened, happened. If I got worse and died, then I could say, well, I tried my best. I got nothing to feel bad about. And if I got better and lived, then I'd be pretty stoked about that too. So, and that's what I did. Just looked after myself. 3 months later, I went back to see my doctor. Scan showed no change. And so, as far as he was concerned, that was great. And I thought, yeah, I don't know if I'll cure myself, but, I might live for a while. That'd be pretty cool. And 3 months later, again, no change. So I started to get into my head, like maybe this can work. And after that, I had some setbacks. After that, I slipped into depression, actually. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I saw it coming. I did nothing about it. It was a combination of social isolation and a few other things. And yeah, bam, got out of my car one day and this pain in my abdomen was full on. Back to Peter Mac. Scan showed that it was the tumour in my bowel had flared up and blocked my bowel off. And for the first time, I was doing the whole why me thing. I was pissed off. This isn't fair. I'm doing all the right things. Why is this happening to me? And I was cross. I had the surgery. Took out a small bit of my bowel with the tumour, sewed my bowel back together, and it still worked. So I was pretty pumped about that. And yeah, I was still down. But on the way into Peter Mac, they had this new poster up. It was on the wall when they were wheeling me in. It said, "You to Peter Mac, meditation on Thursdays." And I went in on a Sunday, I think, and I saw this poster. I said, I'm going to be up, I'm going to that. Thursday came around, I got out of my bed, whacked on my dressing gown, had my IV pole with my pain meds and my drain bag, and they put me in the lift and I went down there. And I turned up and it was all normal people. I think it was for outpatients maybe. And everyone sort of looked up and thought, what is this guy doing here? And then they looked at my pole, because if you unplug an IV pole, it beeps, I don't know, every minute to tell you it's on battery power. I look at my pole and they go, is that going to do this whole time? And I said, yeah. And anyway, I sat down, got into my position. The facilitator did this meditation. And it was great. I just sat there and, just let it wash over me and talked to myself and just said, all right, it's not that bad. Don't give up yet. We'll go back and we'll have another crack. And so that was that. Went home, got back into my routine. I was attending a support group by now. I was doing Qigong, which is kind of like Tai Chi. I was doing doing all my juicing, doing my meditation, and just looking after myself. It was in this time that I became eligible for a drug trial, and it was immunotherapy, so it was sort of working with my body. And I thought, okay, it was called IL-21. And yeah, you know, it was touted as the wonder drug in the States. And I made it about, it was a 6-week trial to start with. You made it through the 6 weeks, you could have the drug. And I made it about halfway through before I started having adverse side effects. And it was terrifying, actually. It was the full code blue moment. It was truly scary. And this was a tough time because, you know, I was listening to my body, and I listened to my body. My body said, look, you know, you've had enough of this. This is enough. You can't take any more. But it's not an easy decision to make, because if you turn down this drug, you can't have access to it again later. So you need 100% conviction on this, because if you get sick 3 months down the track and go, man, I wish I hadn't have done that, you can't kick yourself in the bum for the rest of your life. But I was confident in what I was doing. And so I went back to my doctor and said, look, thanks for the drug, but no thanks. I'm just going to look after myself. And that's what I did, you know, did my full routine, did all my juices, looked after myself. Came back to see him 3 months later, no change. So I thought, all right, you know, I've got stability, I'm back in the game. 3 months after that, I'm in there, my doctor's reading through the radiographer's report, blah, 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 blah. He gets to the end and I said, oh, that's great. I said, but what about the tumour in the pelvis? Because it didn't list that. And he said, oh, they probably did a slack report. Pulls it up on his laptop, looks at the previous report, and it was there 3 months ago. Looks at the new one and it wasn't there. He said, oh, that's odd. And I said, that's not odd, that's awesome. You know, this was like the first time I had positive reinforcement. Up until now, it was just faith, you know? I just believed in this. It resonated with my body. But at this point, yeah, my mind was out of control. I was trying to control my mind. It's saying, maybe you'll live to your 30. That's crazy talk. Yeah, but it was fully motivating, you know? More juice, more meditation. My friends used to bag me out, actually, because I had that much carrot juice that I was turning yellow, I think. Yeah, and what? 3 months later, no change. And it was the next visit after that, 3 months later again, my doctor, he leans in and he goes, do you know what? He said, there's the possibility that you could be cancer-free right now. And I thought, yeah, I hadn't really thought much about it, actually. And I thought, wow, that's it. You know, for me, that was the turning point. It took about 10,000 affirmations of telling myself that I really was all right before I started believing it, because you're fully fragile in those early stages. But that's how it was. Yeah, these are the tools that I used. This is what I did. I just looked after and loved myself, meditated, ate well, and was just happy to be alive. Just lived in the moment and just thought, I'm alive right now. Doesn't matter what happens in the future. I'm alive today, and that's great. You know, I made a decision back then to live a more grounded and balanced life, and it's because of this that I'm still alive now. I've been cancer-free for 6.5 years, and my life is pretty sweet, and that's it.